Welcome to our How to Use Figma workshop. Today we'll be going over the basics of what you need to know to get started with using Figma. I'm Connie, I'm the marketing lead at SB Creative Lab.
Spencer, I'm the web development lead and logistics coordinator.
Okay, and if you haven't been to any of our events before, we're a student-led organization dedicated to cultivating a creative space that fosters opportunity and growth across various design disciplines within UCSB. We host workshops, create resources, and hope to hold some design challenges in the future to provide accessible opportunities for creatives at UCSB. Okay, so what is Figma? Figma is a prototype design application that's widely used for interface design. So if you've heard of UI UX designers, a lot of them use Figma. And it's available on web or desktop platforms. So you can open it in your browser or you can download it as an app. And I would say that the two coolest things about Figma are that one, you can work in real-time collaboration with your teammates. So it's kind of like a Google Doc where you guys can all be on at the same time, and any changes or updates that are made, you can see them happening live right before your eyes. And two, probably the best part, is it's free. So there are some other similar programs like Adobe XD and Sketch, but those are paid, whereas Figma is free. And using Figma, designers can make things like websites, mobile applications, slide decks, product mockups, and a lot more. So we just have two examples on the right. On the top, there's a mobile application interface, and on the bottom, there's the web dev. Our web dev team used Figma to make the interface for our very own website. And like I said before, a lot of UI UX designers use Figma, but also front-end developers. And a lot of big tech companies that you've probably definitely heard of use Figma, like Spotify, Uber, and Zoom, which we're on right now. And this is a very basic overview of the Figma interface. So when you go into Figma and open a new document, you see the layers panel on the left, the toolbar on the top, and the properties panel on the right. And Spencer will show this more in the demo. And before we get started, I'm just going to tell you what the basics are right now. So they're components, design guidelines, frames, and prototyping. And these probably don't really make much sense to you right now, but we'll explain them more in slides during the demo. And now we're going to go over to Spencer so we can get started.
All right, let's go into the demo. Okay, so here we have the Figma desktop app. You can also use it in the browser, like just go to figma.com or something, and then you can use it like almost full functionality just by like making an account. But here's the desktop app. And what we're going to be making today is the Twitter user interface. So I just pulled this reference image from Google. Here's like a homepage, explore, and notifications. Yeah, so we're going to do that. But while we're doing this demo, if you have any questions, you can just put them inside the Zoom chat, and Connie will be moderating that chat. And if there's any questions that I can answer, then she'll stop me and I will stop my demo to answer that. Yeah.
So, we actually have a question already.
Okay, so, perfect.
Are the desktop app and the website exactly the same, or is one better than the other?
I believe they're the same. I'm not sure if you can use plugins on browser. Does anybody know that? I normally just use a desktop app, so you can use plugins on browser. Okay, yes. So they should be about the same. Maybe you might get like slightly better performance on the desktop app because your computer will be dedicating more resources just to running Figma rather than like the browser and the internet and everything. But yeah, other than that, they should be pretty much exactly the same. So yeah, if you want to follow along, you can go on Figma on the browser, make an account, and then I will show you guys what to do. Yeah, but I will be moving sort of fast, so take that into account. Okay, let's get started then, yeah? Okay, so first thing we want to do is create our frame. So the frame is just going to be where you're actually making like the interface. And I'm going to go back to Connie to talk about frames really quickly.
Yeah, so basically in Figma, frames are like your canvas. So on the right, you can see that there are two preset sizes for frames. There's one for Pixel 2 and two for Pixel 2 XL. So in Figma, you can either create your own custom sizes for frames or use presets that are already built into it. So if you're making like an app for an iPhone, you can choose iPhone 11 Pro, or if you're making a website, you can choose like MacBook Pro.
Yep. Okay, so here I selected the frame tool from the toolbar, and on the right side, it changes the properties panel to all the different presets that you can have. They even have like Apple Watch, which is pretty cool. Today we're making an iPhone app, so we're going to choose the iPhone 11 Pro, and it'll make this frame for us right here. It's the same size as the reference image. And we're just going to put this under here, and we're going to name this homepage. All right, so now that that's ready, the second thing we want to do is create a frame for our design guidelines. So Connie's going to talk about those design guidelines again shortly, but in order to do that, in order to make the frame for it, we're not going to use one of the preset sizes. We're just going to freehand another frame. So we're just going to make like bigger than the iPhone app, but maybe like a rectangle like this or something. And we're going to name this design guideline. Right, Connie?
Okay, so with design guidelines, you can put all your components in here along with any color palettes or typography that you're going to be using regularly in your design. And this allows you to have easy access to those useful components and a consistent and cohesive looking design. So on the right, there's a picture example. You can see there's a typography section, a color palette, and even buttons that are used a lot in their interface. And this allows you and your whole team to all be on the same page with how you want your interface to look.
Okay, so we're going to get started with making a section for text styles and color styles first. Okay, so I'm going to go here, and then we choose the text tool, and then I'm just going to write text styles. And we're going to make a text style for heading 1, and we're going to make one for body. So the heading is just going to be like this kind of size and weight for the titles on Twitter. There's one like here and here. So we're just gonna go here and highlight this and change it to like 18, and then we're going to make this bold. All right, so even though we changed it just on this instance, we now have to make it a text style. So in order to do that, we click on this 4-dot button. It's the style button, and we click on this, and it'll show us all the available styles that we have made in our style library. But right now we have none. So we click on this plus button to make this a style, and we're going to name this heading 1. All right, cool. So that's our first text style. If we go to body and we choose the style button, we can see heading 1 is in the library. But we want to make this the body, and we're just going to leave this at default 12 regular weight. And we're going to add this one as a text style as well. Name that body. Okay, cool. All right. So the second thing we want to do is make those color swatches. So let's make another section for color. And in order to make those swatches, we're going to want to go to the shape tool. It's this one. It should be on rectangle automatically, but I was using line tool last time, so it was already on line. But yeah, so select rectangle, and just like the frame tool, you can like freehand a rectangle with it. But one cool thing about Figma is if you hold down Shift, it locks it into a 1:1 ratio, so you can make these squares instead of rectangles. Oh my god, I let go Shift too early. All right, there we go. All right, so that's one square. Let's make 2 more, because the Twitter interface only pretty much has like 3 colors. So the first color we're going to want to take is this Twitter blue. So if we select our square that we made, we can then change the color by going in the properties panel and selecting fill. And when you click on the color, then it will open up this color selecting panel. And you can choose a color by using this like gradient selector, but we're just going to use the eyedropper tool and select exactly the right blue from our reference image. So if you're following along, I'm using hex code 1D A1F1. And just like the text style, we're going to want to make this a color style. So we click on this 4-dot button again and add this as blue. All right, so now it's in our library. And we're going to make 2 more styles. One for like a light gray and then one for a dark gray. So we're going to take this light gray, EB, EB, EC, and we'll make this a text style as well. Name it light gray. And then one more for dark gray. Go here. That's good. Okay. And we'll name that dark gray. So that's 6F767D. Dark gray. Okay. So that's our initial design system so far before we get started on making the homepage. Does anyone have any questions so far?
Nope, okay. We're good on questions.
All right, if not, we're going to go into the next section, which is components. All right, this one's kind of a doozy, so it's a little long. But yeah, so if we look at our homepage structure, we see there's, it's kind of separated into 3 distinct parts. We have a header section, a feed section, which is composed of several tweak components, and a footer navigation, which is also its own component on its own. So yeah, so I'm going to hand it back to Connie, and she's going to talk about what components are before I get into that.
Okay, so components are really useful for assets or parts of your design that you'll be using often. So when you turn an asset into a component, you can easily reuse it in any part of your design without remaking it from scratch. And on the right, you can see in the picture, there's some examples of buttons that are used often in this person's interface. And if you turn these into components, you can just drag and drop them into your design anywhere without, building it all from scratch. And then when you make a component, the master component, which is the one that you originally turned into a component, it also changes all the other instances of the component in your design. And this might be a little confusing now, but we'll show it more in the demo.
All right, yes. So the first component we're going to be making is this divider line. So if you look across the interface, we see this divider line all throughout. So it's like on top of the footer, it's below the header, it's on all the different pages. So yeah, we're going to make that line. So we'll go into our shape tool again, and this time instead of rectangle, we choose line. And we're just going to draw a line across the page. And again, if you hold down shift, it locks it into like either 45, 90, 0 degree angle. So we'll just make that there to make sure it's straight. And I'm just going to put this back in the design guidelines actually, because we want everything, all our components to be in the design guidelines so that it's more organized and easily accessible to drag and drop across all the different pages of your interface. Okay, so there we have our line. As you can see, when I made the line, it's actually black, and we want it to be this light gray. So we can use our color styles that we made earlier, and then so go into the stroke panel. It's a line, so it uses stroke instead of fill. And then choose our style button, and if we just click on that color style we made earlier, bam, it changes it to light gray. So it's super easy to change colors for everything now that we have these color styles made. All right, so now we want to componentize this divider line. So in order to do that, you select the line that you made and then go on the, to the toolbar and click on this 4 diamond button thing, and it'll make it a component as indicated by this purple highlighting. All right, and then so we can rename this divider. And so in order to use those components, when you click on the frame that you want to edit, so in this case, homepage, and go into the Assets tab of the Layers panel, we now see that component that we just made available on the left side. So we can just drag and drop this into the homepage. And bam, we have one divider line. I'm going to make this about 80 pixels from the top. Yeah, and you can see that from the Y property. And we're going to drop another one for the bottom and make that about 80 pixels from the bottom. All right, so one cool trick with Figma is that you can actually just calculate the right amount on the properties panel itself. So I don't really know what 80 pixels from the bottom is right now, but I know the homepage is 812 pixels long. So I can just do 812 minus 80, and it'll calculate that for me, which is really nice because math is hard. All right, so there we have it. We have these two divider lines separating our sections. So the next component we're going to be making is the footer navigation. So in order to make this footer navigation, we're going to use plugins and a tool in Figma called Auto Layout. Okay, but first we want to get these icons. So we're going to use a plugin for that. Before I get into that, anyone have any questions? I know that might have been a lot about components.
No question.
Not? All right, just going to go right into what are plugins. All right, so plugins are like additional features you can add to Figma. There's a lot of cool stuff. Like there's stuff that'll just like auto-generate different shapes, like generate lorem ipsum text, etc. This one is really cool. This one is like it'll like insert splash art for you, and those are all like free to use. So that one's pretty cool. But we're going to be using feather icons today. And feather icons is just like a library of these icons that you can just click and then they'll put them into your interface. So in order to get in...
Okay. Spencer, we got two questions.
Okay, go ahead.
One, can you make vector assets within Figma, or do people usually import from Illustrator?
Can you make vector assets in Figma? I think you can. So I'm not super experienced in like vector and raster drawing and everything. But I believe like you can just export anything that you make as an SVG. So in the properties panel, there's this export section. And yep, you can choose SVG. So I think if you created something with just shapes and like the pen tool, and just like not like your own inserting your own raster images, then you can export everything as an fully usable SVG. Haven't really tried that before, so yeah, I'm wondering if like it's going to export that as like a PNG into the SVG, or if everything will just be like vectorized. But there is this SVG option, so you can look into that. I hope that answered your question. Sorry that I don't know too much about that. Yeah. This is the second question.
We also have, are we gonna have a slower follow along later?
So not planned right now, but we'll post a recording of this workshop later so that you can like follow along with the recording. You can always just message me if you ever want like any help with creating anything. I can walk you through that on a different time. And if it's like well requested or something, then maybe we could do another more workshop like demo where I go slowly while everyone like makes it along with me. Yeah, hope that's okay. Okay, I'm gonna move on with the plugins then, if that's okay. Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay. All right. So yes, plugins. So go ahead and click on the install button on whatever plugin that you want, and it will just download it. It should be pretty quick, and you can then use it by right-clicking on the screen and then selecting plugins and choosing the plugin that you just downloaded. So we're going to want to make our icon. So we're going to right click and choose feather icons. All right, and so we're making the footer nav, and we need like a home icon. This one for search, notification, and mail. And you might have to like search a couple times when you're looking for something you want, because they have this huge library of stuff, and there's all sorts of like interesting icons. And I wouldn't even know how they would like describe. Like, what is this thing? Or it might be Windows. Anyways, yeah. So when we use the plugin, it just drops whatever we just made into like the space rather than the actual frame that we want it in. So we just need to drag all the icons that we just made into our design guidelines. So, oops. So make sure you're selecting the right thing by selecting it in the frames panel. And you can move all of these over here. All right, so there are all of our icons. And we're just gonna componentize these first. All right, so just like our line, we now have these all as components. And so we can move this into our home page by choosing it from our assets. All right, so we're going to move this home icon here, search one here. Okay, all right, so now we have all our icons in the footer section, and they're kind of all scattered all over the place. So here's where this cool feature comes in, which is auto layout. All right, so if we select all of the icons that we want to put in a straight line, just like in the reference image. So I'm going to select them by clicking and dragging over all of them. You can also just like shift click and then right click on your selection and click add auto layout. All right, and so they're still not vertically aligned, but if we click on auto height, then it should put them all in the same vertical space. All right, so now they're all in this straight line, but the spacing between them isn't right? Because on the reference image, there's a lot more space between each of the icons. So we can quickly, with auto layout, we can quickly add an even space between each of the icons by choosing this property, spacing between items, and just increasing it here. And between all the icons, we'll get like 60 pixels of space there, and you don't have to do them each separately. And it's really clean. All right, so let's increase the space a little more. All right, and then so we'll just drag this into the middle. It should lock on automatically because Figma has like these like magnet things, which is nice. And one other cool feature about auto layout is that you'll notice that I put this mail icon here, which isn't the same as the reference image. But with auto layout, you can just select on that mail icon and you can swap it with the bell one, and it'll automatically put them in the right place. Yep, so auto layout is a really powerful, clean feature to use. Right, so we're going to finish off this footer navigation by making it a component. So I'm going to add a little rectangle behind it. And I'll make this white. And this is covering it right now, but so in the layers panel, you can move your different assets around and reorder them by like their Z positioning. So if we just move this behind these two, I think that, all right, there we go. Okay, and then now we're going to just select all of these and make all three of these a component together. So we click on the create component button. There we go. And I'm going to name this footer nav. Right. And so because I made this component inside the homepage, the master component is actually located in the homepage. But we want all our master components in the design guidelines. I'm actually just going to copy and paste one more of these and then drag the master one into the design guidelines. All right, so now there's an instance of it here, and then the master one is in the design guidelines. All right. Anyone have any questions about that before I move on to the header?
No questions.
Okay. And if you have like questions about the footer or anything that like I've already moved on, or you can just ask it. Like, don't worry that I'm like moving past it. All right. So, all right, we're gonna go into the header section. So the header is made up of this profile picture, a title, and then another icon for this twinkle button. I use Twitter, so I actually don't know what that does. But okay, so we're going to make the profile picture first. So we'll go to our shape tools again, and we're going to choose ellipse this time. And if we hold down shift, we get a perfect circle. And we'll just make that like a 36 pixels. So you can change it in the properties panel, and it'll automatically default to constraining the proportions, which means that the width and height will stay locked in its aspect ratio, its original aspect ratio that you made the shape in. So if we enter in 36, it's also going to change the height to 36 if we have the constrained proportions button turned on. All right, so then we have our circle, and we're also going to add in that title, latest tweets. And we're going to use our text style that we made earlier. We're going to choose heading 1. Here we go. And also we're going to add one more icon. So we're going to open up feather icons again. And I don't think they're going to have this star thing. We could probably make it with like a couple different icons, but we're just going to do star. That's close enough. So
I have a question.
Go ahead.
How did you know what font Twitter uses?
Oh, I don't know actually. I don't think this is the same font. This is just Roboto, which is actually like Google's default font. But yeah, so I just chose a clean looking sans serif, and then I thought that was close enough. But you could probably look it up on Google. There's a lot of websites that are dedicated to like identifying fonts for people. There's like tons of super typography experts who like can quickly identify all these fonts and stuff. And Twitter itself, or like any of these companies, might release their like brand guidelines themselves, so you can find enough fonts through those. But yeah, so I'm just using Roboto here. It's pretty close, but I don't think it's the exact one. Yeah, does that answer your question? Okay. So we're going to add this star onto our page. So let's componentize the star first. And we're going to move that star onto the page. All right, here we go. All right, so now I'm going to talk about kind of like the relationship between the master component and all the instance components. So let's say we had another star somewhere on the page. If we change the master component to be like blue, then all the instance components are also going to turn blue as well. But if we change, let me undo that with Control Z. All right. But if we change just an instance of the component, it'll only change that specific instance. So you see the other star doesn't change colors. So what that means is that if you want something to be, if you wanted to make a change across all your components, you could do it really quickly by doing it inside the master component. But if you only wanted a change on just one specific component, like you see on these bottom icons, only on the home page is the home icon blue. Only on the Explore page is the search button, search icon blue. And then you can just change it within the instance of the component. And likewise, you can also change text styles across all the different instances of that text style. So say we actually wanted all the titles to be bigger because we thought this was too small. we can just up it to say like 36. And everywhere we use that text style, we'll change to 36. Yeah, it just makes things easier when you're putting together multiple page applications. So yeah, so that's our header. Oh, we also need to add a profile picture. So we're going to use another plugin for that. This time we're going to use Unsplash, as I mentioned earlier. So we run that plugin, and after selecting where you want to add that splash art, then you just click Insert Random. All right, and it creates a profile picture for us from a free-to-use stock image. All right, so let's also make this header a component. So again, I'm going to add a little rectangle behind it. Make that white. And I got to reorder it to be behind all this stuff. So I'll make sure it's also in the homepage frame. All right, and then I'm going to select all of these and componentize it. All right, and then I'm going to name that header. Let me move. Oh shoot, I didn't put the rectangle in. Right, you can just drag and drop it like that. All right, so I'm going to make this the instance of the component. All right, and then I'm going to move the master component into the design guidelines. All right, there we have it. It looks like, sorry about that. I didn't include the divider into the component. Oh, actually, that's okay. So I wasn't very careful about that. So the divider is behind that component, so you can't see it right now, but we're going to move on. All right, so next thing we need to do is make the feed. So the feed is composed of all these different tweets, and we pretty much just made these tweets the same way that we did with the auto layout for like this row of buttons and then the profile picture with a circle. So we pre-made that tweet component. So I'm just going to drag and drop that component into our application. All right. So we'll put that there. And we'll make another one here. All right, so now our home page is really starting to come together. It's starting to look like the actual Twitter page. All right, but one thing that's missing is that like some of the, while it just kind of looks like it right now, like there's no functionality, there's no way to show how the app is actually going to work. So one key thing about Twitter is that this feed portion is going to scroll individually while the header and the footer navigation stay fixed on the page. So we want to make only this middle section scrollable. So we can actually show that in our prototype. So before I go into the different ways to prototype, I'm going to throw it to Connie again. All right.
Okay, so basically in Figma, you can prototype your designs so that you can connect different frames together to present how your app or website would work in real time. So for example, if you wanted to have, like in this picture, someone press the login button and it goes to the login page, you can do that directly within Figma, and you can also prototype different interactions between your designs.
All right, so in order to show that piece of scrolling functionality, we're going to select our header component and go into the properties panel and choose fixed position when scrolling. And then we're also going to choose our footer nav and choose fixed position when scrolling as well. All right, so now we have those set to fixed. We can extend our frame out more vertically, and we're just going to copy and paste more tweets to be below. And only this content is going to scroll. All right, so that's good enough. And so now in order to show the prototype, we can go into the presentation mode, which is this play button on the top right, and it will open up our application and it'll show it on the correct device. So this is an iPhone 11. And so when we scroll here, you see that the top part stays fixed and the bottom part stays fixed, while only the inside scrolls. Yep, so now it's really starting to look like it. Yeah, does anyone have any questions about that?
No questions right now.
Okay, all right, cool. So the next thing I'm going to show is prototyping between pages. So again, we have a notification page that we made earlier, and I'm just going to drag and drop that into our current document, and I'm going to create a wiring between these two pages. All right, so in order to get to the notifications page on the actual Twitter app, you have to use this, you have to click on this bell icon to go to this page. So we can do that by adding a wire to that bell icon. So we select the bell icon and we go into the prototype panel, and you'll see that it adds this little circle that we can drag out from the icon and connect it to the frame that we want it to go to. All right, so this indicates when we click on the bell icon, it'll move the prototype to this screen. And so we can change the interaction. So we can change it. There's like different animations that you can do for the transition. There's like dissolve, all that stuff. But we're just going to do instant, and we'll see how that works right now. So go into the presentation mode again, and when we click on the bell icon, then it'll move to our notifications page. All right, and likewise, you would probably want to make this home icon go back to the home page. And so now we can navigate between the two, just like a real app. All right, so that's the main kind of wiring you're going to be doing between multiple frames, but Figma also has some additional type of prototyping tools to kind of like add to the realism of your application. So the two I'm going to be showing you guys are Overlay and Smart Animate. So Overlay does what it sounds like. It'll move whatever frame that you're wiring it to just over the frame that was originally there. So one good usage of this is on Twitter. When you click on the profile picture, it opens up a sidebar menu that covers like half of the screen, while the rest of the screen is underneath it. So yeah, we can show that here. I'm going to take this overlay panel that we made previously, and we're going to wire this to our profile picture. So again, move this wire over to the overlay. And this time, instead of navigate to, we're going to change the interaction to open overlay. And so we can choose where the overlay comes in from. We're going to do top left, and we're going to move it in from the left. There we go. And you can also change the timing and the easing of this. We're just going to leave it at 300 milliseconds. And let's see how that works. All right, so when we click on the profile picture, and it just moves in from the side. And if we click outside of it, then it'll go the opposite direction. All right, so now we have a couple of different functionalities on our page, and we can move between all of them. All right, so the last prototyping type that I'm going to be talking about is Smart Animate. So sometimes you'll have like kind of like an animation on a frame where everything on the page is the same except for like one small part. So Figma has this interaction style called Smart Animate that lets it makes it so that everything on that between those frames that are the same are going to stay stationary, while only the thing that's different is going to move. So that might not make sense right now, but let me show you how that works. So for instance, on Twitter, when you click on the like icon, and the heart turns red, it's like a little animation. So I can't make the animation, but we're going to make that turn red. So we're going to copy and paste another one of these frames, and I'm going to select just the heart icon and then drag it to the second frame. And on this frame, we're going to make the heart red. So we'll go into the design tab of the properties panel, and we're going to change the fill color to be red. All right. I'm also going to take off the string. Okay, so now we have to set our wire to be smart animate. So instead of animation move in, we're going to choose smart animate, and let's see how that looks. So we click on this heart button, bam, and there's like a little like fade in transition thing. And then since we copy and pasted it, I believe all the other interactions should still be there. So now we can switch between all of these. So that's all I have to show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed that demo. Does anyone have any questions before I close? Throw it back to Connie to close out our workshop.
No questions.
Okay. All right. In that case, I'm going to go back to Connie.
Okay, so now that we've kind of given you guys an overview of all the important basics you need to know to use Figma, we want you guys to create your own, just one page of a food ordering application or website. It can be any food, as complex or as simple as you want. And then once you're done, tag us or DM us on Instagram at SB Creative Lab, or submit your work through the Google form if you want us to showcase it on our social medias. But we just really want to see you guys get involved. And our next two workshops will be coming up soon at the end of this month. So on October 27th, we'll be having a What is UI UX workshop with Professor Misha Shraw. She's a professor in UCSB's very own computer science department, and she's won a lot of awards and gained a lot of recognition within the human-centered design field. And on November 5th, we'll be having another student-led workshop that'll be run similarly to this one, and it'll be Intro to Adobe Illustrator. And the sign-up information and updates for all of our workshops and events can be found on our social medias, which are linked to these icons. So the slide deck will be available after the workshop on our website, and you can find us on all of our social medias there. And you can also scan this QR code or sign up at this link for our email. And that's pretty much all we have for you today. Thanks so much for coming. If you have any questions or feedback for us, you can let us know on this feedback form, which will also be on the slide deck, and we can also send it in Slack afterwards.
Thank you.